Hello everyone, welcome back to Mad About Cards and Crafts. My name is Marla. Today I have a masculine card share using products from Tim Holtz. I started with Versafine Ink, Gina Amalgam Ink, Tumbled Glass, and Chip Sapphire Distress Ink, Tailored Expressions Mask, Into the Woods, and Perfect Plaids from Tim Holtz, Lawn Fawn Square Stackables, and the Lawn Fawn Borders, both stitched. This is Distress Embossing Powder in black and Versamark ink. So I'm starting by stamping this mousse from the Into the Woods set. I knew when I purchased this at Christmas that I would be using it to create masculine cards, so I went ahead and stamped it 3 times using the Gina K black amalgam ink, and then I took it over to my scan and cut it out. I didn't get a great cut from it, so I spared you my horrible fussy cutting, but I did that off screen. Now I'm taking that Tailored Expressions square mask. I'm using the negative portion, and I am going to stamp this perfectly plaid stamp as a background. I'm going to use the Versamark ink, and you will see that when I do the embossing that I'm not going to get a really sharp emboss, and that's because the black soot distress embossing powder is grainy. It is not meant to be a perfect emboss. It is meant to look distressed, and so I initially started this card as a craft and black card, and I am calling this video the evolution of a card because this is how I roll. I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, and then if it doesn't turn out the way that I like, I kind of just switch directions and find a way to make it work, and I think this turned out great. So I'm putting the powder on there, and you can see it's kind of like a graphite almost. And when I heat emboss it, it's not going to change colors. It's really going to stay pretty muted, so it's not going to be a sharp black. You can also see that the Tim Holtz background stamps do not reach all the way across. They are actually 4 by 6, and so what I'll do with this is do the embossing here, and then I'm going to take my guillotine trimmer and I am going to cut those sides down, making this panel 4 by 5.5. So this initial idea was to ink blend in that middle section, and the only layering to be the mousse, and as I said, I will switch directions. So I'm going to pull out the other portion of the Tailored Expressions mask, and I'm going to put it over the top, and then I'm going to start ink blending with some Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide ink. And here is where my card begins to take a twist. So I will lay the ink down using my blending brush that I purchased on Amazon, and I decide that afterwards I do not like the look of that blue with the craft and the black. So I will go in and start making some changes. My initial thought was I was going to use black for the trees, and instead I change my mind and I come in with Chip Sapphire. And I'm looking at this and I'm not quite sure that I'm liking that frame with the plaid, and so I will switch ideas as far as that goes as well. So I just stamp, clean off my stamp, and then I kind of change the height of the trees, and I'll do a second generation stamping right here, and I try it on the fourth tree, but it just doesn't come out the way that I wanted it to, so I end up going back in and just putting a regular coat of ink on it. There we go. And here's the one. This is the one, sorry, the fifth one. See, I was going to go with that and I just didn't like it. And so I'll go in and I'll stamp it again. Now I'm still, see, I still think it's looking a little bit plain, so now I'm going to come in with my Lawn Fawn stackable squares, the stitch stackable squares, and I'm going to create a frame. Not only is that going to add some interest to this card, but it's also going to allow me to even up the sides where they weren't quite even. So I can do that with that, and then I decide that it needs to be grounded. The moose needs to be grounded, so I take the Stitched Borders die, also from Lawn Fawn, and cut a hill out of that. I'm not liking the black, and so I bring in a Gina K Designs navy cardstock, and that craft cardstock is paper tray ink. I also used Nina Solar White for the Moose 80-pound cardstock to cut that out. And here's where I make another change. So now I decide that that craft cardstock just isn't working for me. So since I've already embossed, I don't have to worry about ruining the black plaid. And so I'm going to come in with the Distress Oxide in Chip Sapphire, and I'm going to change the paper color to blue, and I will like this so much better. I also decide to pull in a Lawn Fawn banner die for the sentiment. That was one that was just laying around my desk. I tend to cut things out, decide not to use them, and then end up pulling them into another card, and that's what I did here. So here's that navy, and then I'm going to start layering my pieces together and building the card. So I really like the fact that the Tim Holtz products really not only help me get some rustic Christmas cards and some you know, I love the plaids and I love the animals and things like that that his products carry, but you know, they also are very versatile year-round, so that I can get some masculine birthday cards, which, as we all know, as I've said before, we just don't make as often as we should. But I am sending some cards off for the military, and I needed a few male birthday cards to round out my package, and so I thought that I would use these products to create this. So my biggest struggle in life with card making is lining up my panels. As you can see, I did use some dot adhesive, dot runner adhesive on the back. I start to lay down my square frame, and I do leave a little bit of a lip so that I can tuck that little hill in, and then I lay it upside down so the lip is at the top and not at the bottom. See, really careful up there, so I have a place to put that, and then it just doesn't work out very well and I can't tuck it in, but I'm able to get it lined up and still use that little hillside. So I'm going to put the hill on, and then I'm going to put my moose on. I do use the Sentiment Suite from the Greetery birthday stamp set, and I use the Sentiment Celebrating You Today. I probably should have arched it just a little bit, put a little bit of an arch on the sentiment when I laid it on my banner, but it came out good enough for me. So there's the banner, and I am going to ink it up with some chipped sapphire, and I'm going to get a really good coat on there. off screen I cut it out, but I did go ahead and use my heat tool to just dry it a little bit, and then I will come in with some Versafine black onyx ink so that I get a really sharp impression for that sentiment. I will off screen add some dimension to the back of the banner where it sticks up. I probably could have added a third layer. I end up adding two, and it works out just fine, but I think if I were to do it again, I probably would have put a third layer underneath it just to give it a little bit, to keep that height on there. So here's where I go in and I'm trying to, you know, straighten this and make sure that it's even. I even did a test run and it was perfect, but as you can see, the banner is slightly curved, and so if I maybe would have curved that a little bit, it would have looked a little bit better, but for this card I think it's just fine. Now I'm going to put some glue on the tail. I'm going to lift it and move it and do all kinds of things trying to get it where I want to. It really doesn't want to adhere to that embossed area. Here's where I add just a thin little strip for a second layer to get a little bit more height on that, and then I'm going to use put some more glue down on the sticky portion of that double-sided tape so that it adheres better, because the adhesive from the dimensional tape really didn't want to stick. So I'll sit my glue bottle on top of that, and then I'll put it on the side of the banner where it doesn't want to stay, and eventually it will stick like I want it to. So that's my card for today. I thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I appreciate each one of my subscribers. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment box below. All of the products will be listed below, and I hope you have a fabulous weekend. I'll be back Monday with a Team Tiny hop video, and I'll give you one last look at my card. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.